Israel and Hezbollah appears to be entering a dangerous new phase. Early Monday morning, Hezbollah announced that its fighters had confronted an Israeli helicopter landing attempt in eastern Lebanon's Bekaa Valley, claiming that one of the aircraft was struck during intense clashes near the town of Nabi Sheet. According to a statement released by Hezbollah's military wing, also known as the Islamic Resistance in Lebanon, their fighters detected what they described as a large Israeli airborne operation shortly after midnight local time. At approximately 12:10 a.m. Beirut time, Hezbollah said it observed around 15 Israeli military helicopters approaching the region from the direction of Syria. The aircraft reportedly flew over several villages along Lebanon's eastern mountain range, including Jenta, Yafufa, Nabi Sheet, Arsal, and Ras Balbet, areas located close to the Syrian-Lebanese border. Hezbollah said several helicopters attempted to deploy Israeli infantry forces in the Surgaya Plain, an area near the border region. According to the group's statement, fighters immediately engaged both the helicopters and the troops that were attempting to advance toward Lebanese territory. Local reports from the Bekaa region indicated that the confrontation quickly escalated into an intense firefight involving anti-aircraft weapons, machine guns, and other battlefield equipment. A correspondent from the Lebanese newsnet Al Mayadin reported that during the engagement, Hezbollah managed to strike one of the Israeli helicopters involved in the operation. However, there has been no independent confirmation from Israeli officials regarding whether any aircraft were damaged or forced to withdraw. Meanwhile,
We won't pay for war and we won't pay for war and slaughter.
Not a penny, not a dollar. Free Palestine.
Free Palestine.
Not
another nickel, not another dime.
Not another nickel, not another dime.
Not a dollar. We won't pay for war and slaughter. Devastating damage to the U.S. military. You know it, I know it, and they know it.
I think as far as Trump is concerned, he doesn't really care if the oil prices go up and gas prices go up for Americans. What I truly believe is that he is in it with the wealthy people. So Putin is happy that the war is driving up prices because it drives up for his oil that countries are having to buy, especially as there's less oil coming out of the Middle East. His oil becomes more expensive, and people will buy it. And I think Trump is happy with that. Trump loves dysfunction, and he loves the fact that there's so much dysfunction and chaos across the world because it helps him. It makes him feel better, and it makes him wealthier.
Broken bombs have been falling in Iran, killing civilians.
I think it's making it so much more unstable and unsteady, and I'm afraid that the war is going to expand even further than it has already. And I also heard this afternoon that Trump is blocking the release of the FBI's report that says there are terrorist threats here in the United States, and they're blocking the release Trump is even moving now into the Latin American countries, and he has the Ecuadorian military involved with fighting for drug cartels. He's trying to start and operate military operations and wars everywhere. I'm hoping that some sense can happen here and that people can realize and that leaders can realize we need to turn down the temperature because this is not a good idea. It's making things worse.
I think he thought this was going to be just like Venezuela, where everybody just cooperates. You already have people in the government willing to, sell out the country. But clearly, Iran's a lot more resistant than that, and we're seeing the results of that. The Arab countries, they've been paying the United States for weapons and defense, and all that money's gone up in smoke. The U.S. doesn't care about you. And it's not targeting civilians. So I think this is really to send a message to the United States rather than the people of those countries. Anything can happen, right? Trump is very unpredictable. I think it's really up to him. If he tries to escalate further, I think it's possible. If the Israelis try to escalate further, they try to use a tactical nuke or something. That could absolutely happen, unfortunately. I don't think Donald Trump doesn't understand Iran. I don't think he understands very much of anything. When he's giving speeches about the war, he suddenly talks about the curtains in the White House. So I don't think he knows about anything. So I think the Iranian system so far is holding. We'll have to see how this goes, but so far, Donald Trump's actions have not had that much of an effect on Iranian leadership. For anybody who sees this, wherever you are in the world, I really hope that you can try to stand up. The United States is not your friend. You cannot rely on the United States. You shouldn't come to the World Cup. You shouldn't buy anything from America. This is the only way that this country is going to learn to no longer engage in imperialist wars. Behind me is the wreckage from a ballistic missile launched by the Iranian regime. What you can see is a civilian apartment building in Bat Yam, or what's left of it, after a ballistic missile directly hit this building. Numerous people were killed, hundreds were injured, and there are now soldiers behind me digging through the rubble to try to find the bodies that are launching rockets at civilian buildings. This is what we're going to stop.
من اینجا لازم از کشورهای همسایه که مورد حمله قرار گرفتن از طرف ایران از طرف خودم عذرخواهی کنم برای اینکه ما این روند و اوضاعی که اتفاق افتاد فرماندهان ما، رهبر ما، عزیزان ما جان خودشون رو از دست دادن خاطر تجاوز وحشیانه‌ای که نیروهای مسلح ما قهرمانانه که زندگیشون کف دستشون گذاشتن از تمامیت ارضی دفاع کنن که وقتی فرماندهان بودن با آتش به اختیار تمام اقدامات که لازم بود انجام دادن و با عزت و قدرت از سرزمین من اینجا لازم از کشورهای همسایه که مورد حمله قرار گرفتن از طرف ایران از طرف خودم عذرخواهی کنم برای اینکه ما این روند و اوضاعی که اتفاق افتاد فرماندهان ما رهبر ما عزیزان ما حقیقت جان خودشون رو از دست دادن به خاطر تجاوز وحشیانه‌ای که داشت به نیروهای مسلح ما قهرمانانی که جان مکتبند و زندگیشون کف دستشون گذاشتن که از تمامیت ارضی دفاع کنن دیگه وقتی فرماندهان نبودن آتش به اختیار تمام اقداماتی که لازم بود انجام دادن و با عزت و قدرت از سرزمین ما دفاع کردن. امیدوارم این اتفاقاتی که افتاده در تصمیمی که ما دیروز در شورای موقت رهبری ما گرفتیم این تصمیم به نیروهای مسلح گزارش داده شد که از این به بعد نباید به کشورهای همسایه حمله بکنن و یا موشک بزنن مگر اینکه از اون کشورها بخوام به ما حمله بکنن و من فکر میکنم این رو با دیپلماسی باید حل کنیم. ما خدمتگزار این مردم ما تلاش خواهیم کرد که هیچ مشکلی از طرف ما برای مردم عزیز ما وجود نیاد، ولی واقعیت این است که جنگ است و ما خودمون رو برای یک جنگ آماده کردیم و آماده خواهیم کرد.
شوف الكلب يهرب، الكلب يهرب، مريكي مريكي مريكي. هذه التي نراها الآن كانت في بداية الحدث في دولة الكويت في مطار الكويت.
A major battle is unfolding at sea as U.S. and Israeli strikes target Iran's naval power in the Middle East. According to analysis by the New York Times using satellite imagery and videos, Iran has already suffered significant naval losses during the first week of attacks. At least 7 Iranian ships were destroyed while docked at naval bases, and key military infrastructure was heavily damaged. The entrance to an underground naval facility near the strategically vital Strait of Hormuz was also reportedly hit. But despite these losses, experts say neutralizing Iran's naval threat will not be easy. One major reason is that Iran does not operate just one navy. It has 2 separate naval forces, each with very different capabilities. The first is the conventional navy, known as the Islamic Republic of Iran Navy. This force operates traditional warships and large naval vessels. Many of these conventional ships appear to have been the primary targets of recent U.S. and Israeli strikes. But Iran's second naval force may prove far more difficult to defeat. The second force belongs to the powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, often referred to as the IRGC Navy. Unlike the conventional fleet, the IRGC specializes in asymmetric naval warfare. Instead of relying only on large warships, this fleet operates swarms of speedboats, naval drones, and explosive unmanned vessels. These smaller assets are faster, harder to detect, and much more difficult to destroy. and they are specifically designed for warfare in the narrow waters of the Persian Gulf. The IRGC Navy also carries a critical responsibility. It is tasked with protecting and controlling the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most important maritime choke points in the world. Nearly a fifth of global oil shipments pass through this narrow stretch of water every day. Any disruption here can immediately impact global energy markets. Military analysts warn that even if Iran's conventional navy is weakened, the IRGC fleet still has the ability to threaten commercial shipping. Recent attacks in the region highlight that risk. According to analysis, at least 10 merchant ships have been struck by unknown projectiles in the Strait of Hormuz and nearby waters. Many of the impacts were reported above the waterline, suggesting the possible use of naval drones or small, fast attack vessels. Such tactics make it extremely difficult for large naval forces to completely secure the area. Satellite images show that U.S. strikes have hit several key Iranian naval facilities. One major target was a base on Keshem Island in the Strait of Hormuz. The base reportedly includes an underground cove used to hide both manned and unmanned speedboats, including explosive suicide boats. Another heavily damaged facility lies at Bandar Abbas, one of Iran's largest naval bases. Multiple ships and military infrastructure were struck there. U.S. forces also reportedly targeted a drone carrier belonging to the Revolutionary Guards near the base. Further damage was reported at the naval headquarters in Kanarak, along Iran's southeastern coast. Satellite imagery suggests that 3 combat ships sank while anchored at the pier. Several buildings at the base were also destroyed. Analysts say these strikes have significantly weakened Iran's conventional naval fleet, but the threat from Iran's asymmetric naval capabilities remains. Experts warn that even with damaged bases and destroyed ships, Iran still retains the ability to disrupt shipping in the Persian Gulf, and that means the naval battle in the region is far from over. With the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group operating near the Gulf of Oman, the waters around Iran have now become one of the world's most dangerous military flashpoints. As tensions rise, the question remains whether the United States can fully neutralize Iran's naval forces, or whether the IRGC's unconventional fleet will continue to pose a serious threat to global shipping routes.
Iran has intensified attacks on U.S. bases in the Middle East in response to the continuous bombardment by the American and Israeli militaries. A huge explosion was reported at Ali Al Salam Air Base in Kuwait, according to reports. The base is home to the United States Air Force's 386th Air Expeditionary Wing and the United States Marine Corps. The pro-Iran militant group in Iraq, Islamic Resistance, claimed responsibility for the attack in a post on Telegram. The Iran-linked armed group said the base was attacked using drones. It further added, quote, "We confirm that our operations are continuing at an escalating pace, and we direct civilians to stay away from the presence of the American occupation or agents and traitors." Unquote. The Kuwaiti base, housing U.S. military, has been attacked several times since the war broke out on February 28th. On March 8th, a viral video showed an American soldier filming the moment an Iranian Shahed 136 hit a radome tower at Ali Al Salam Air Base. The fresh attack came a day after IRGC launched a back-to-back assault on the U.S. Al Udeiri helicopter base in Kuwait. Amid mounting retaliatory attacks, the U.S. had earlier announced it was closing its embassy in Kuwait. On March 8th, an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait killed 6 U.S. soldiers after an unmanned aircraft breached air defenses and hit a military operations site, according to U.S. officials. Following the attack, the U.S. Embassy urged the public to stay away from the facility, citing ongoing threats. It warned people not to approach the compound due to a continuing threat of missile and UAV attacks over Kuwait. Ali Al Salam Air Base is located about 40 kilometers from the Iraqi border in Kuwait. It is one of the key facilities used by the U.S. Air Force for military operations in the region. The base hosts the 386th Air Expeditionary Wing, which supports air missions and logistics for U.S. forces across the Gulf. Because of its role in supporting U.S. military operations in the Middle East, the base is considered strategically important. It has been among the facilities linked to U.S. forces in the region that have come under threat during the ongoing conflict involving Iran, the United States, and its allies. Meanwhile, Kuwait also confirmed that a small fire broke out in one of its fuel tanks at the Subia Power and Water Distillation Plant. As per Kuwaiti authorities, the situation is under control as of now. The financial impact of Iranian attacks is also huge. Kuwait has already announced that it has cut oil production and refining output because tankers cannot transit the Persian Gulf due to threats from Iran. Gulf Arab oil producers like Kuwait export their barrels through the strait. The narrow waterway is the only way to enter or exit the Persian Gulf. About 20% of global oil consumption is exported through the strait. The Arab monarch described the output reduction as a precautionary measure that will be reviewed as the situation develops. Kuwait is the 5th largest oil producer in OPEC. It produced about 2.6 million barrels per day in January. The state-owned Kuwait Petroleum Corporation said it remains fully prepared to restore production levels once conditions allow. Kuwait, like other Gulf countries, has been hit hard by Iran and its proxies. Earlier, a high-rise building was hit in Kuwait City. A huge fire also broke out in the fuel tanks at the Kuwait International Airport, along with the main building of the Kuwait Public Institution for Social Security.
The Middle East is now in flames as Iran escalates its retaliatory campaign against American military targets across the region. Following a devastating strike on the U.S. naval base in Bahrain, the Islamic Revolution Guards Corps, or IRGC, has launched a back-to-back assault on the U.S. Al Udeiri helicopter base in Kuwait. According to the IRGC, their combined drone and ballistic missile operation precisely struck critical facilities of the base, including helicopter maintenance and refueling areas, fuel depots, aircraft, and the command building, causing severe damage. The attack reportedly sparked a massive fire, with thick black smoke visible for miles, a grim signal of Iran's growing reach. Al Udeiri is no ordinary installation. Located near Kuwait City, it is a vital hub for U.S. rotary wing aircraft operating throughout Iraq and the broader Gulf region. Helicopters stationed here conduct transport, reconnaissance, and support missions for U.S. forces engaged in counterterrorism, surveillance, and rapid response operations. Its strategic importance makes it a prime target for Tehran, which aims to disrupt American mobility and logistics across the Middle East. comes in the wake of February 28th, when the United States and Israel launched a military assault on Iran, assassinating the leader of the Islamic Revolution, Ayatollah Sayyid Ali Khamenei, along with top Iranian military commanders. In response, Iran has carried out massive retaliatory strikes targeting U.S. facilities and Israeli-occupied territories with coordinated drone and missile attacks. The IRGC emphasizes that these operations are focused exclusively on U.S. military positions. Tehran maintains it does not seek confrontation with Arab nations, yet its precision-guided attacks on bases like Al Udeiri signal a new intensity in its regional campaign. In their statement on Sunday, IRGC officials said the Al Udeiri base was hit with surgical accuracy, disrupting aircraft operations, refueling, and command functions. They further claimed that this strike is part of a broader effort to target U.S. terrorist bases across the region, alongside missile attacks on separatist positions in Iran's northwest. Analysts warn that the significance of Al Udeiri cannot be overstated. As a hub for U.S. rotary wing aircraft, its disruption affects rapid troop deployment, air logistics, medevac capabilities, and regional surveillance. By hitting this base, Iran is not only sending a message of deterrence, but actively weakening American operational flexibility in the Gulf. The timing of this attack also underscores Iran's strategic approach. Back-to-back strikes demonstrate both reach and resolve, showing that American bases are no longer safe from retaliation, even deep within the Gulf. The message is clear. Iran is capable of hitting critical infrastructure, disrupting military operations, and responding quickly to aggression. Meanwhile, the broader regional conflict is intensifying. Iranian forces have already targeted U.S. bases in Bahrain, Kuwait, and other regional hubs. Their drones and missiles continue to patrol skies and strike strategic targets, signaling the growing role of unmanned systems in modern warfare. With Hezbollah fighting in Lebanon and the Houthis in Yemen threatening to join the conflict, the Iran-U.S. confrontation is evolving into a multi-front regional war. Every new strike, like the one at Al Udeiri, escalates tensions and raises the stakes for American forces and their allies. The strike at Al Udeiri is also a reminder of Iran's broader strategic calculus. By targeting helicopter and logistics capabilities, Iran seeks to slow the rapid responsibilities of U.S. forces, reduce aerial surveillance, and demonstrate that even heavily fortified American bases are vulnerable. But the images released by the IRGC, blazing missiles, erupting fires, and black smoke billowing into the Kuwaiti sky, leave little doubt that this operation marks a dramatic escalation in Tehran's campaign against American assets. Adding to the broader picture, the IRGC has also previously struck separatist positions inside Iran, signaling a dual focus on external and internal threats, and a readiness to defend Iranian sovereignty and retaliate against foreign aggression. As the smoke rises over Al Udeiri, the Middle East watches tensely. Iran's back-to-back strikes reveal a strategic message. U.S. bases in the Gulf are no longer untouchable, and Tehran is ready to escalate if provoked. A U.S. National Guard service member has died in Kuwait, marking the latest American fatality as the escalating conflict between Iran, Israel, and U.S. forces continues to intensify across the Middle East. The death comes amid rising military exchanges, missile strikes, and attacks on critical infrastructure, signaling a dangerous new phase in the regional confrontation. United States Central Command has confirmed that an American National Guard serviceman has died in Kuwait following what officials describe as a sudden medical emergency. According to the command, the incident occurred on March 6th while the service member was deployed in the country. Authorities said the death followed what they called a health-related incident, though the exact cause has not yet been determined. In a brief statement posted on social media, officials said the circumstances surrounding the death remain under investigation and additional details will be released once the review is complete. The military did not immediately disclose the identity of the service member in accordance with standard protocol while the next of kin are being notified. United States Central Command added that further questions have been directed to the National Guard Bureau, which is expected to provide more information about the soldier's identity, unit, and assignment in the coming days. For now, officials say the investigation is ongoing as they work to determine the exact cause of the fatal medical emergency. This latest death brings the total number of American military fatalities to 8 since the conflict linked to the U.S. and Israeli offensive against Iran began on February 28th. Several other U.S. personnel have also reportedly been injured during operations across the region as tensions continue to rise. Meanwhile, Iran announced early Sunday that it had launched the 30th wave of Operation True Promise 4. According to Iranian authorities, the barrage included Khorramshahr, ballistic missiles along with strategic drones aimed at Israeli targets. Iranian Islamic Revolutionary Guard said the strikes targeted military and strategic sites linked to Israel and United States forces operating in the region. Iranian state media reported that the operation was carried out during the 19th night of Ramadan and under the leadership of the country's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei. At the same time, Israeli forces continued strikes inside Iranian territory as the confrontation entered another phase of escalation. International reports indicated that Israeli attacks targeted energy infrastructure near Tehran, including oil storage facilities and petroleum transfer installations. Several oil storage tanks reportedly caught fire following the strikes, sending thick plumes of smoke into the sky and disrupting fuel infrastructure in the area. Iranian authorities said emergency crews were deployed to control the fires and assess the scale of the damage. Analysts say attacks on energy infrastructure mark a significant escalation and could be aimed at disrupting Iran's logistics and fuel supplies during the ongoing war.
Are you still wasting hours opening 90?
Far away from us, also we look outside, we put jets in the air, so truly there was a sustained aerial campaign going on. I would say for about an hour or an hour and a half, it hit several targets, not just in the south of Tehran, but also in the east and the west of Tehran as well. We saw huge plumes of smoke billowing over the city, especially in the western part and the southern part. It seems as though some of the oil infrastructure was hit there by either U.S. or Israeli jets. Certainly that's what it looked like. There was fires burning, there was big black smoke coming up into the night sky. And what we're hearing from Iranian state television is that apparently oil storage facilities in the south of Tehran, large oil storage facilities, have been hit. It's unclear how big exactly the damage. Certainly from our vantage point, it looked as though it was very, very big. And then also in the east of Tehran, apparently there was also an oil infrastructure that was hit there as well. The other thing that we're hearing is that in sort of one of the satellite towns around Tehran, that apparently there also one facility was also in the town of Karaj. There were also massive airstrikes going on there as well. So clearly a very busy night here. Obviously in the skies above Tehran, but also for the folks here on the ground, obviously having to witness all this. And having been in the town here in Tehran
today and yesterday, you do hear airstrikes very frequently when you're going out on the streets here. There's definitely very often the case that you hear those thuds from those bombs that are coming in. You hear jets overhead. That certainly is.
China's role in helping Iran at a time when it is facing aerial bombardment from Israel and the US is under the scanner. Two ships owned by an Iranian state shipping company have left a Chinese port. But the US says these ships are carrying cargo which will aid Iran's ballistic missile program. The ship movement comes days after the United States and Israel launched their war on Iran. A new analysis of ship tracking data, satellite imagery, and sanctions records suggest that these vessels may be carrying a chemical which is critical for rocket fuel. The two cargo ships, Shabdis and Barzil, are operated by the Islamic Republic of Iran Shipping Lines, also known as IRISL. The company is a state-owned shipping firm that is under sanctions from the United States, the United Kingdom, and the European Union. This week, both vessels departed Daolan Port in China's Zhuhai. It is a major chemical storage hub on the country's southeastern coast. According to the analysis of ship tracking data, both ships appear to have loaded cargo before departure. The two ships are already en route to Iran, and the Barzil has anchored off the coast of Malaysia and is expected to arrive at Bandar Abbas in about a week. The Shabdis is continuing its voyage and is expected to reach Thabur Port around March 16. Both destinations are located near the Strait of Hormuz, which is a strategic waterway critical for the global energy trade. The strait is currently blocked by Iran's IRGC. China has long denied providing direct missile assistance to Iran, saying that many of the goods in the question are dual-use chemicals with both civilian and military applications.
Covering all of this from various angles. We've got Paula Hancock's joining us from Dubai, but first I want to get to CNN's Jerusalem Bureau Chief Aaron Lieberman in Tel Aviv. Aaron, what we understand, Israel launching that massive attack on Tehran, and this after we've also heard just a few minutes ago from the Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian saying they will not surrender. Take us through the latest there.
Well, what's interesting here about Israel's statement that the latest wave involved 80 fighter jets is that this isn't even the largest wave of attacks we have seen by Israel. They have used more than 100 throughout the course of the first week of the war in simultaneous strikes across parts of the country here. And you can see that very much continues. In this latest wave of attacks on Iran, Israel says they targeted what they say was the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps military university, as well as a number of other sites, including ballistic missile launchers and ballistic missile arrays. That remains a key target for Israel as we see them work their way down their target list. As you pointed out, U.S. Central Command says they have struck more than 3,000 targets in the first week of the war. Israel said just a couple of days ago that they have struck, I believe, about 2,500 targets. So you get a sense of how large the operation is as it very much continues. The U.S., President Donald Trump, and the Defense Secretary vowed that this effectively would expand and they would see larger and larger strikes as we move into the weekend and as we move into the second week of the war here. Meanwhile, as that happens, we see Iran firing back. What's interesting is that over the course of the last several days, we have seen more of the incoming Iranian ballistic missiles happen several times during the day and the evening. Last night, there were at least 3 rounds of incoming ballistic missile fire in the overnight hours. So Iran at least retaining some ability to launch at Israel. Meanwhile, on the Lebanese front, Israel continues to go after Hezbollah targets there. What's interesting there as well is that Hezbollah media and the Lebanese Ministry of Public Health have said that Israel has conducted commando raids into the country using helicopters and some small number of ground forces that have engaged in firefights with Hezbollah militants. So it seems that Israel is pushing deeper into the country. This isn't a ground incursion or a ground invasion at this point, even as Israel has taken more positions along the Israel-Lebanon border. But we will certainly wait to see where this goes from here. Keep in mind that over the course of the past 24 or 48 hours, Israel has issued evacuation warnings for large swaths of southern Lebanon, basically the entire south of the country, as well as large parts of the capital of Beirut and parts of the Bekaa Valley. So Israel has the forces up there as it continues pushing. and vows, at least right now, that Hezbollah will be disarmed before they scale back what's happening and the Israeli strikes in Lebanon.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron, I just want to bring up this map of all the strikes, the US-Israeli strikes into Iran, and it's quite widespread. You mentioned here that the 80 fighter jets in those pre-dawn strikes in Iran were really targeting ballistic missile sites, military bunkers, and so forth. What is our understanding of the degradation of Iran's military capabilities? Do we have any insight on that?
So we've gotten some of this information from the Israeli military. They say they've targeted somewhere between, and I forget the exact numbers, between 60 and 80% of the ballistic missile launchers, as well as either 60 or 80% of the missile and air defenses. So that's been a key target. That's actually a lot of what has allowed the Israeli Air Force and the American Air Force and American Navy to basically have free reign over large parts of Iran. It's because they were able to take out the air defenses. And that's why you see the Israeli military putting out videos of their fighters over Iran. It's because of that freedom they have to operate. But this has always been an asymmetrical war. Iran was never going to put up its air forces and match it fighter to fighter with the US or Israel. Iran's weapons have been their ballistic missiles, and they still have those at least to some extent, as we saw here last night, as well as their one-way attack drones, and then some of their other capabilities. That's what Iran is using here to fight back, as well as their determination to stay in the fight here. And that's what we're seeing on day 8.
Yeah, and Masoud Pezeshkian saying, no, I'm not going to surrender. That came in just a short time ago. Aaron Lieberman, thank you so much for that update. I want to go live now to CNN's Paula Hancock, who's in Dubai. Good to see you, Paula. I want you to give me a bit of insight into what has happened in Dubai today, the interception, specifically a lot of news out of Dubai airport. What is the latest there?
Yeah, so Elaine, this was a couple of hours ago. We did hear the interception. Suspended temporarily. We heard from Dubai Media Office saying that it was.
A barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles has rocked Israel's commercial hub, Tel Aviv, triggering multiple explosions and sending millions of residents scrambling for safety. Air raid sirens echoed across the country as incoming projectiles streaked through the night sky. The dramatic escalation comes as Tehran unleashes yet another wave of strikes in its intensifying confrontation with Israel. According to Israeli media reports, at least 15 explosions were heard across Tel Aviv following the arrival of cluster warheads fired from Iranian ballistic missiles. The strikes came shortly after Iran announced the launch of the 30th wave of its military campaign, known as Operation True Promise 4. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said the barrage included Khorramshahr, Fatah, and Khaybar ballistic missiles, as well as strategic drones aimed at Israeli targets. The IRGC said the strikes were directed at military and strategic locations linked to Israel and United States forces in the region. As the missiles approached Israeli territory, air raid sirens began sounding across large parts of the country. Alerts were reported in Tel Aviv, Haifa, the Galilee, the Jordan Valley, and several settlements across central Israel. Media reports reports also reveal massive power outages in the wake of Iran's bombardment. Footage circulating on social media appeared to show the aftermath of the explosions, with damaged vehicles, shattered shopfront windows, and debris scattered across streets. Reportedly, Iranian cluster warheads have carved massive craters across the Tel Aviv region. One missile fragment reportedly struck a residential building in Tel Aviv, causing heavy structural damage and prompting a major emergency response. Images from the scene showed large sections of the apartment block destroyed, while rescue teams searched through the rubble for possible survivors. Residents were seen moving rapidly towards shelters as emergency crews secured the damaged area. Authorities said several people were injured during the latest wave of missile strikes across central Israel. The attacks come amid continuing exchanges of missile barrages between Iran and Israel, with densely populated urban areas increasingly caught in the crossfire. In recent days, air raid sirens have repeatedly forced millions of Israelis into shelters as air defense systems attempted to intercept incoming missiles.
Explosions rocked parts of central Israel after Iran launched another wave of ballistic missiles toward Tel Aviv and surrounding areas. Dramatic visuals from the scene showed thick black smoke rising above the skyline, and a car overturned on a street in the Bnei Brak area following the impact. Authorities say multiple impact sites were reported across central Israel during the latest barrage. Police officials say the widespread of the blast locations suggests that at least one of the incoming missiles may have carried a cluster-type warhead. First responders from Israel's National Emergency Service, Magen David Adom, rushed to several locations after the strikes. Paramedics initially reported 3 people injured by shrapnel when debris from the explosions hit residential and commercial areas. Among the injured was a man in his 40s who sustained serious wounds in Tel Aviv. 2 others were also hurt in the nearby city of Petah Tikva. A 25-year-old reported to be in moderate condition, and a 56-year-old man with lighter injuries. Officials later said the number of wounded had risen to 6 as more casualties were located at impact sites. In Petah Tikva, 5 people were reported injured, though most were described as being in stable condition. Emergency teams and search and rescue units from the Israel Defense Forces were deployed to the affected areas. Authorities say investigations are underway to determine the exact type of missile used in the attack and assess the full scale of the damage. The latest barrage marks another escalation in the rapidly widening confrontation between Iran and Israel, with missiles striking densely populated urban areas and emergency teams scrambling across central Israel. Fears are mounting that the conflict could intensify further in the days ahead. Sirens blared across Tel Aviv and parts of central and southern Israel as Iran launched another round of ballistic missiles, sending residents rushing into bomb shelters. According to early reports and eyewitness accounts, at least 2 missiles are believed to have made an impact in central Israel, even as Israeli authorities say there are no immediate reports of injuries. The latest attack triggered air raid sirens across a wide swath of Israel, including Tel Aviv and nearby cities, as Israel's air defense systems scrambled to intercept the incoming projectiles. Israel's military said a small number of ballistic missiles were fired from Iran, setting off alarms in both central and southern Israel. Emergency services said they were assessing several locations after reports of possible impacts in the Tel Aviv metropolitan area, though officials stressed that the situation remains under review. Initial assessments suggest most of the missiles were intercepted by Israel's missile defense systems, but some projectiles may have landed in open areas. Israel's Home Front Command later said civilians in areas where sirens sounded could leave bomb shelters, though it urged residents to remain close to protected spaces as the security situation remains volatile. Before central Israel, the Israel Defense Forces, IDF, said it had detected another launch of ballistic missiles from Iran towards southern areas. Sirens sounded in southern Israel, particularly around Beersheba and surrounding communities, where residents were warned to prepare for possible incoming fire. Meanwhile, several explosions lit up the sky in western Tehran as Israeli warplanes pounded the Iranian capital in the early hours of Saturday. According to reports, an airport was bombed by the Israeli fighter jets, leading to damage to at least one aircraft parked at the airport. There was no information about the number of casualties so far. 8 Israeli soldiers, including the son of Israeli Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich, were injured in a rocket attack by Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah in northern Israel on Friday. Hezbollah's rocket attack was in response to relentless Israeli strike on Lebanon amid its war with Iran. According to the Times of Israel, 5 of the 8 soldiers were seriously wounded in the rocket attack. The troops, who all served with the Givati Brigade, were taken to the hospital for treatment. The Israeli military on Friday released footage that it claimed showed airstrikes on Hezbollah targets across Lebanon. In a statement, the army said its air force, guided by IDF intelligence, completed a broad-scale wave of strikes in Beirut against Hezbollah terror infrastructure. According to Lebanon's health ministry, the number of people killed by Israeli strikes since Monday has risen to 217, with another 798 wounded. After the attacks by the US and Israel on Iran triggered a new war in the Middle East, Hezbollah launched missiles and drones into Israel Monday for the first time in over a year. Israel has retaliated by bombarding southern Lebanon and Beirut's southern suburbs. A U.S. National Guard service member has died in Kuwait, marking the latest American fatality as the escalating conflict between Iran, Israel, and U.S. forces continues to intensify across the Middle East. The death comes amid rising military exchanges, missile strikes, and attacks on critical infrastructure, signaling a dangerous new phase in the regional confrontation. United States Central Command has confirmed that an American National Guard service member has died in Kuwait following what officials describe as a sudden medical emergency. According to the command, the incident occurred on March 6th while the service member was deployed in the country. Authorities said the death followed what they called a health-related incident, though the exact cause has not yet been determined. In a brief statement posted on social media, officials said the circumstances surrounding the death remain under investigation, and additional details will be released once the review is complete. The military did not immediately disclose the identity of the service member in accordance with standard protocol while the next of kin are being notified. United States Central Command added that further questions have been directed to the National Guard Bureau, which is expected to provide more information about the
bring in Victor Gao. He's a chair professor at Suzhou University and joins us from Beijing. Victor, welcome to the program. Can China play a constructive role in diffusing this crisis?
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, indeed, China is playing a very important and constructive role right now when war has already broken out. And this war was not started by Iran. It is started by Israel, coupled with the United States. So the United States and Israel are engaged in this war of aggression against Iran, violating Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity. And the Chinese government emphasized that Iran's sovereignty and territorial integrity should be fully respected. China is calling for de-escalation and ceasefire immediately, because otherwise you do not know how much evil this whole situation may degenerate in, because this may degenerate into a regional war or even with more global implications, because first of all, energy security will be undermined, and it may also lead to a big financial crisis. So the world itself will suffer the consequences of this unwanted war launched by the United States and Israel against a sovereign country. And Iran is now exercising full right of self-defense against the aggressors.
Well, Victor, what about when it comes to international law and UN Charter? Do these military actions by U.S. and Israel violate those?
Absolutely. I think in this particular case, Israel committed act of aggression against Iran.
And
Third World War. To that extent, I think, despite of all its imperfections, the United Nations, including Security Council, have gone
This disgraceful act they have created on the international stage carries a heavy cost. They assassinated the leader of Iran. The price for it will not be small.
Hello, everybody. Appreciate it, Dave. No situation. Great parents, wives, any questions? Does what you just witnessed make you think differently about going ahead with this war or even putting troops on the ground in the Middle East? We're putting the war on a lot. We've decimated their whole evil empire. It'll continue, I'm sure, for a while. But I'm very proud of the people of Paris. The parents were so proud of their boy, as they call him, my boy, Chase, young lady. The parents are so proud. Many of them are military parents this year. But it's always a very sad thing. The war itself is going unbelievably. It's as good as it can be. Meet here, see what you got here, ask additional questions. I don't want back in now. You won't be at this point how long now you 1 week than it would have cost. We wiped out the Navy 44 ships. We wiped out their Air Force every plane. We wiped out most of their missiles. You see, the missiles aren't coming much anymore. So in their manufacturing, areas where they make the missiles very hard. Their probe capacity is way down. And we heard where it hurts. Really, including about every form of leadership you can have with wiped out. I never reject that, whatever it does. But the military is almost non-existent. We can hit the military itself very hard. Maybe we will, then we haven't made that before. This is a short excursion into something that should have been done for 47 years. 47 years it's taken to do this. It's a part of war. Who you with? The Washington Post. What do you say it's part of war? That's our it's part of war. So the sad part. It's the bad part. Did the United States bomb a girls' elementary school in southern Iran on the first day of the war and kill 175 people? Based on what I've seen, that was done by Iran. Is that true, Mr. Nixon? We'll certainly investigate. But the only side that targets civilians is Iran.
Now viewers, we are learning of very crucial news. No more attacks on Trump's Gulf allies. Well, Iran has come out to say, and reports are saying that Iran will not be attacking neighbor.
බයික් කියලා නිකන් මම අනුන්ගේ බයික් කියලා ආස නැහැ. හරිද? පොඩ්ඩලකින් බයික් කියලා නෑ මම. මම ආස නැහැ. කියලා දෙන්න නෑ. ගන්නවා මොකක්ද මේ බයික් එක මොකද? ඒ මොකද බයික් එක? මොකද දෙන්න?
දැන් මට ෆෝන් එක අවුල් කරලා වෙන දේ ගන්නවද මම?
දැන් මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ මට? දැන් මොකක්ද ඒ ෆෝන් එක ඉස්සරහට එන්නේ? එදත් 7000 දීලා හදන්න.
දාලා නෑ.
හරි? අල්ලි නෑ මං දාලා. අල්ලි දීදී ඔය පොලේ ගහන්න එපා. අල්ලි දීදී පොලේ ගහලා හදන්න හදනවා. අල්ලි එදුනා මොකුත් නෑ. මේ සල්ලි දෙන්න කන්න බීගෙන දෙන්නා කියන්නේ නෑ. ඒක තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ. මේකෙන් බිලක් ගන්න 2000 කට පොඩු වෙනා ඒක නෙමෙයි වැඩ කරලා වෙනවා.
මං කියලා නෙමෙයි කියන්නේ.
කියට දෙයක් නැහැ ගියම හැබැයි
ඒ කියලා නේද? දැන් බලපන් මොකක් කරන්නද?
කියන්නේ මම හම්බුනොත් මම කියනවා බඩු. ඒ සල්ලි දෙන්න ගන්නද? Macam baru itu pakai, hari kita berdua.
Trade with 3 times less slippage than other brokers, only at Xness.
කොහොමද ආදරෙන් පිළිගන්නවා හෝම් සිනමා සිංහල YouTube channel එකට. අද ඔයාලා ගන්න ඉංග්‍රීසියෙන් හැරෙන්නගේ මේක සත්‍ය කතාවක් අභිනම් කරගෙන හදින කතාවක්. දෙන්න පටන් ගත්තී අපිට පෙන්නනවා මේ චිත්‍රපටයට අදාළ මායා කියන චරිතයේ සැබෑ කෙනා. එයා කතාව කියන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. අපිට පෙන්නනවා මායාව ඊට වඩා හොඳ යාළුවෝ දෙන්නේ එකට ඉන්න සතුටින් ඉන්න සැබෑ යාළුවෝ වෙන්නේ. මේ 2007 අවුරුද්දේ මායයිටයි හොඳම යාළුවෝ වෙන් කරන්න බැරි ඕනම දෙයකට ඕන වෙලාවක ඉන්නේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ ෆුල් ෆන් ඉන්න රේටින් එකතරයි හොඳම යාළුවෝ විදිහට ඉන්නේ. ඊට පස්සේ මේගොල්ලෝ රවුමක් ගහලා මෙහෙල් එනවා ඊට ගෙදර යාළු කාමරේට වෙලා කතා කර ඉන්නවා. මේගොල්ලෝ කතා වෙන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ දැන් ඉස්කෝලේ නිවාඩුවක් ඉවර වෙන්න ළඟයි කියලා. මම අහනවා අපි ට්‍රිප් එකක් යමුද කියලා ඊටගේ. ඊට කියන්නේ යාගේ තාත්තා යාව එළියට යවන්නේ එන්නේ යවන්නේ නැහැ ගොඩක් කියලා. එහෙනම් තාත්තා අවසර දෙන එකක් නැහැ කියලා කියනවා. ඒ වගේ දුර ගමන් යන්නේ. එකපාරම මේක නැතිලා ටිෂු එකක් අරගන්නවා. මම අහනවා මොකක්ද අවුල කියලා. මෙලා ඊට නහය පොඩ්ඩක් තිය දානවා. එයා දකිනවා නහයෙන් ලේනවා කියලා. හැබැයි ඒක මායට කියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක ටිෂු එක දානවා ඩස්බින් එකට. මම කියනවා ඊට පස්සේ නම් මම ගෙදර ගිහින් එන්නම් කියලා. මෙලා ඊට තේරෙනවා මායා මේ ගෙදර යන්න හදන්නේ තා කහණියක් වොෂ්රූම් යන්න කියලා. ඊට කියනවා මායට ඔයාලා අපේ ගෙදර වොෂ්රූම් එක පාවිච්චි කරන්න පුළුවන් දැන්